Hey, what's up guys? I'm going to be running you through a little bit of the start of my campaign as the Eastern Roman Empire. Now, a bit of a disclaimer, this is obviously from the review build, and I do want to let you guys know that I am not the best source for campaigns. I'm not a big campaign player, so I may be biased in the sense that I had a really good time with this one, but I would tune you into other channels such as Lionheart or other people who do, you know, routinely play these campaigns, who will have a better perspective of finding the distinction between Attila and Rome 2. But anyways, this is me hopping into it, and I'm really actually liking the campaign. I did play a couple Rome 2 campaigns, but this one really drew me in a lot more, especially from the start of it. So as the Eastern Roman Empire, you have a lot of field armies in the east facing up against the Sassanids. The Western Roman Empire is guarding the sort of the Rhine and the Danube, and then they have these axe grinders, the Suebi forces, marauding on the inside. And in my campaign, they went all the way down into Iberia. And then up north, you're going to have the Western Roman Empire sort of trying to hold on to Great Britain, or the Britannic Islands, and it's pretty interesting when you're going to be able to see that fall apart. Anyways, my campaign was mostly dealing with factions on the east. The Sassanids here, early on, started to turn against me. They were a client state, and they had a huge army that was marching out against me, so what I decided to do is cobble together a couple of these forces, pull them into this front, and I really had to deal with this. My general right here, Flavius Timasius, is actually going to have low integrity, so I was kind of itching for a fight with these guys, so I move a lot of forces into position. I end the turn, and lo and behold, these guys are actually going to beg for peace, seeing that there's these three armies. Now, I could be attributing this, you know, to the fact that I had three armies, or maybe it's just random, but it seemed to me that I showed a display of force, and these guys reacted, and all of a sudden they were now begging for peace, and were going to give me coin in exchange for their own subjugation. So I thought that was pretty cool. It meant I didn't have to waste any troops, but now I was still left with the issue of having to do something with my general with low army integrity. I thought this integrity feature is really cool. It's a really awesome new feature. It was one of the reasons why I was thinking of going to war, and it's a feature that keeps your army from being too stagnant. If your army stays put, your general is going to amass poor qualities, and then he's going to have low integrity, and that army could, you know, revolt against you. And so you have to do something with them. So I also use this panel a lot, and I decided, okay, I've secured the southeastern border, and look at this. I'm going to have to secure loyalties of both of these factions. The Sassanids were forced to sort of become my client states again with the show of force, and I have to take a look at the Sassanid Empire, make sure that they're not going to pose a threat to me. And so what I can do is turn on the armies, and I have to take a look at what's happening elsewhere on the campaign map, seeing where it's best to put forces. Flavius Stilicho is actually moving into Great Britain, which was cool to see, that historical figure. And there's already chunks of this empire starting to crumble. You can see the west just turning into little fights, flaming into giant conflicts, and then eventually crumbling in the wall of the empire. And over up here, it really reminded me of Game of Thrones. I mean, you can see the empire, the inspiration for Game of Thrones with the wall up here. This is Hadrian's Wall, of course, in the snow. So winter is coming for the Roman Empire in this part of the world, and they're just holding on barely. And then if you look a little bit to the east, this is obviously a little bit down the campaign, but just factions are pouring into this area, and they're really lightly defended. And so what I figured is I would have to, you know, and even General Hilarious over there is tackling the Swabians, so I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, the status of where things lie right now is the Western Roman Empire is going to be shuffling forces to deal with the enemy. I am actually going to be committing troops, but the Huns, two armies have penetrated my defenses there. And so because I was able to secure friendly factions on the southeast, I feel like I have too many armies here. The Sassanids are looking pretty strong in their attitude once I've showed the force. And then also the Sassanid Empire is relatively unfriendly, so I'm going to leave a couple armies down here just to pacify the region, but then I'm also going to move one of my armies up to the Eastern Roman Empire capital. And what I'm going to do is actually coordinate with my ally, the Western Roman Empires, help them basically target some of the Hunnic forces, and if we can combine might to take those guys out, then I will go ahead and return the favor and help clear out their territories. So here's going to be the army of Timasius, and you can take a look at this. Look, I really appreciate this army feature, the integrity feature, and look, I could decimate him to get the army to get back in line, but that would destroy my forces. I don't really want to do that. And I realized that contributing factors are actually going to be my character, so that has to do with disloyalty or poor traits of my general. So I go ahead and take a look at the general faction trait, and I can see he's lax, he's a procrastinator, and those are going to have effects on his character, especially the negative penalties to integrity. That's going to be what's causing him to be poor and degrade the performance of the army. So I could replace this general, but I figure I will allow this guy to prove his worth, and I'm going to send him actually to the rescue of the Empire by deploying him to the Balkans. So I'm going to put him on forced march. Instead of just decimating his army or booting the general and getting a new one, I'm going to actually make him show his worth and his loyalty. You can see all these armies starting to pour into the Balkans. I definitely need the help of an additional army, and so I'm going to be moving these guys into position, help reinforce Constantinople. And on forced march, you're actually able to shuttle these guys pretty effectively across the road system. And this is a really cool feature, the ability to move forces to and from the east and west side of the empire. That's something that you would have done historically as the Eastern Roman empires. And then what I'm going to initially do is I have an open position, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Timasius actually in the position of a military count. This is obviously internal politics. You have to appoint guys as military counts that get experience, and then they move up the ranks to master of soldiers. They have to be there a couple years, and then they can move up to commander-in-chief and different offices. So I'm entrusting him with a lot of power. Let's see if he can prove his worth. The pressure is definitely on. The Huns are raiding my territories, and you can see more armies pouring into these positions. I need as much help as possible. Meanwhile, you can keep track of what's happening in the Western Roman Empire. The Suebi forces here hiding in the forest, setting up a temporary fort and preying off the settlements there. It's definitely not going well for us. And some of the appointments I had internally, there's going to be political obstructions, and you have to deal with them in various ways. So I thought that was really cool. Obviously, this is one of the big things that Attila is going to be able to show. It's just how much more they flesh out the internal politics, and I found myself much more tied to these characters. So, for example, here, that's the disloyal general. Someone tried to block his appointment, but I decided to stand by him. So, like I said, you start to establish these sort of personal ties with your general, and that has to do with the fact that it's 4 turns per year. They stay alive much longer. Their traits are much more defined, and you have many more sort of things you can tweak and control about the campaign. So now he's going to be moving into position, and I have to do something to keep these Hun forces back. They've completely desolated Macrianople, and I'm going to have to come to the relief of these cities, prevent further sacking, because actually the Balkans are suffering from a lot of penalties. Public disorder, food is running low, so I have recruited priests to try and improve my population, but I just need to get rid of these armies in my territory. So now you can see me trying to check how far each of these forces can shuffle. I'm going to decide to put one of these guys here, and I'm going to tell them to hold the pass, construct a fort in that position, and what I'm going to try and do is keep those enemy forces bottled up in that territory, the desolated territory of Macrianople, and then move my armies, shift them to hold more of the core of my empire, particularly Serdica, which has walls. I want to protect that walled city, not allow it to fall. It's most important for the Balkans. And then Tremontium, I'm going to send another force from Constantinople to defend that position. So I've basically held all the choke points. And here comes Timasius. He's going to come in. He's going to be actually tasked with defending the capital. So huge responsibilities on this man. I'm going to end the turn. And then you're going to see some of my strategic planning taking effect. So the Huns are going to try and push through here. They have 2 medium-sized armies trying to breach the territory. Out in the open and would have been killed, but I actually was able to kill these guys by having a fort battle. You'll have to take a look at another one of my videos for that actual battle. I'm going to be focusing on the campaign here. And now the armies here are going to actually probe and poke into another position. The Western Roman Empire, meanwhile, is going to offer me payments for joining war against the Picts. You know, I'll always take that money. But like I was saying, these guys are going to go ahead and push through the different defenses. They've tried one pass, it doesn't work, and now they're going to be forcing the way with 2 armies attacking Tremontium. And so again, this is going to be another video where you can see the details of this battle. But yeah, if I were to wander out and take the offensive before, all these armies would have been crushed. And so you definitely have to fall back to strong points such as these cities, which is what I like. What I've realized that this game offers you, even though I don't have much experience with other Total War campaigns, is really the sense of holding together a large empire without the ability to just steamroll. You don't have enough money to upgrade all your buildings, you don't have enough money to get all the armies you want, and you're definitely beset by stronger forces. So you have to be very careful and calculating in how you do things. Even though I had the city at my back here, I was nonetheless destroyed, and I lost my general who was actually invested in. So each of these losses, you definitely feel it because you can become attached to the armies, but also in terms of the effects that it has on your your cities and the army integrity. It really has an effect on your campaign that I really like. It's not as superficial as Rome 2. Everything feels attached and integrated. Anyways, now I have 2 priests recruited at Constantinople who are going to be helping me secure this area. And now here comes the general who's going to have to prove himself. I'm going to move him into Constantinople just to secure it. And then I'm going to actually move him even further up to try and secure this area, and I'm going to try and bottleneck these two armies. Because I was able to defeat the Huns in the east, and now I have extra armies that I have in the vicinity, they're going to be able to play a supporting role with each other. I'm actually going to be able to move him into position. One of the armies is going to retreat, but that's going to leave the other one open to counterattack. I'm going to always check to see if I have mercenaries to bolster my ranks. And then I'm going to move into here, absolutely destroy this army, and actually Tibosius is going to be, you can see him there, he's actually one of the reinforcing armies, so he's going to be here. Very, very useful that he moved from the eastern to the western front. And I'm going to take on these warriors to replenish some of my losses and just continue to steamroll these troops. Now, one of the things that you have to be careful of is stretching yourself too thin. You can see that army right there that's retreated, but I'm very, very cautious about moving into this territory without the support of additional armies. And so always make sure you're moving in concert with all your forces. You concentrate your forces. And again, that's another thing I really like about this campaign, is the fact that it makes you think about each individual army and its deployment. And that's maybe due to the fact that you have limited army and limited funds. Take a look at this. The Huns are lurking in the background. If I had attacked with one army, all these forces are actually allied, and so I would have been triple teamed. But here I move in with two almost full strength armies, and I'm going to be able to slaughter. And so here is going to be the sweeping counterattack through the Balkans. I basically sustained the assault of the enemy, incurred heavy losses on them from defensive positions, and now the counterattack is going to come sweeping in. This general right here is going to get a lot of blood on his hands, but he's going to avenge definitely all the losses I've had, and I'm going to be coming in here, clearing the Balkans, and this sense of reclaiming lost territory like this is something I've never felt in any other Total War game, and it's really, really fun, and very rewarding, I'd have to say. So you can see just the at least the depth that you feel in the first 10 or so, 20 or so turns of the campaign. It definitely gets off to a good start. You have to be very careful. And now that I've won these battles, my territories are going to start to recover, my economy is going to recover, and I'm going to be able to invest more in the army, hold up my frontier. And then what I can actually do is select these armies now that they have experience, and actually start to upgrade my general, and I can give him, invest skills that'll give me more, public order bonuses, so to further help the cause. I actually have some, you can see the integrity of the army has gone up 20 up, plus 4 public order bonuses because the army veteraned up. So it's very, very crucial that you maintain the right stats for your army. And even this guy, Timasius, who was previously disloyal, take a look at this. I am able to improve his skills, political animal, and I can give, look at this, +2 integrity right there. Because he got experience, I can invest in that. I'm going to get him +4 integrity. He gets a bunch of stats, and look at the army. Even though we still have negative, look at the change per turn. We're back up to +10. So this guy has definitely proved his worth, and the army shows it. And so I love that that's a mechanic built into the battle. I was forced to actually do all these things on the campaign map because initially this guy had poor integrity, and so I was, gunning for a fight with the Gassanids. Then in turn they sued for peace when I showed force, and then I decided to move this guy to the Balkans, and all of that sort of had an intertwined effect. And now I can turn my eye to what's happening in the Western Roman Empire, and it's really fun to try and come to the recovery of these forces here. And I'm actually going to not do it for free. I'm going to ask for the Romans to actually pay me some money, which is actually a cool feature. So I'm going to ask them to pay me to actually come to the relief of their army. So whenever possible, obviously don't do anything for free. And here I go with some of my armies in this position. And now I'm going to be able to threaten these guys. So definitely very fun to come to the relief of this force. And take everything, of course, with a grain of salt. I may be making this seem like it's all that, but go ahead and take a look at all the other videos that people are putting together. This has definitely been very, very fun. I believe one of the most fun campaigns I've ever had in Total War. But that, of course, has to be taken, like I said, with the grain of salt. The fact that I don't really play that many campaigns, and maybe this could be overall new to me. But I think this is definitely something new. That's new to the title. I mean, here's my general Timasius, who originally was going to be one to cause disloyalty and rebellion in the east. Moved him to the west, and now look at this. He's going to be moving in support of the Western Roman Empire, relieving their cities and taking on threats 2 or 3 times his size. And that's a story that I don't think you could tell on any of the Total War games. So that is going to be my impression from the Eastern Roman Empire. Definitely very fun. Hope you enjoyed. And take a look at those other videos for the battles. See you next time.